Hit record.
I'm recording now.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to do the introduction now. Welcome to Pros Talking Prose. We already did a good chunk of this. We said some really brilliant things a few minutes ago on this podcast. But you know what happened? We weren't recording. So welcome to Pros Talking Prose. Right now, we only have one pro, and the other one is laughing her ass off and sliding out of her chair. But we'll get back to it. So we're going to talk about the publishing industry today. And today we're going to follow up to last week's discussion that we had about Shy Girl, but we're going to talk about this from in a different place, a non-emotional place, where we're going to talk about the fact that the use of AI is widespread in some various areas of writing. We're going to get to those. And so when you're using them, okay, let me pause on that for a second.
Okay. Okay. Well, we practiced.
Troy introduced the podcast because we practiced, and Stacy has now recovered herself.
Yeah, I am so sorry. Like we were doing so good. We were on such a good roll too. I'm so sorry.
I don't know if I can say those things that I just said that were so important.
We could say it again. We'll say it again.
I'll say it again. Okay,
we'll start over. We'll start over. Okay. So first and foremost, welcome to Pros Talking Prose, guys.
What are we talking about today, Stacey?
We're going to talk about, like, we're going to approach this topic in a more proactive way. We've noticed over the last week since the whole debacle with Shy Girl, that there has been kind of like this, like a lot of reactionary comments, but there's also a lot of like, well, AI and there's just a lot of division happening, right? AI is not going anywhere, but AI is, here to stay. And we've got these people who are like anti-AI and people that are pro AI, and they're fighting in the middle, and okay, everybody just calm down. What we're going to do right in this podcast today is we're going to talk about, as from the editor perspective, why and how to detect AI writing in your, and we're coming from a very good foundation. And Troy, I'll let you describe that, but basically we've got a wealth of knowledge that we're going to give you today, and how to scrub AI out of your writing. And the reason is you want to scrub it out is twofold. One, you want to protect your copyright. If you have questions about that, go back into our podcast. We talk about this with a copyright attorney. We did it a few weeks ago, and we're not going to rehash that, but we are going to tell you that your copyright needs to be protected. And then second, and most importantly, is that your readers are detecting it, and they, like me, and maybe I don't know, Troy, I was just not able to articulate how I knew it was there, but I now can, and pretty soon everybody's going to be able to articulate it. And AI, we're not talking about chat detectors. We're not talking about those, because those are totally and wholly
detection.
We're talking about unreliable. Those are unreliable. I'm talking about the human feeling that we get, when we can sense when something's a little off. So,
and the way we said it before was, this is about the court of public opinion. Okay,
right.
There's still a group of, we're talking about in the author community, there's a certain amount of acceptance that AI is here to stay, that we're going to use it for certain tasks in the writing and publishing process. Other tasks we may not use it in. That's kind of a personal choice. But readers have their own opinions. There are a group of readers that are like, if it's a good story, it's a good story. But there are other readers that like, I don't want AI anything. I want a human telling me a story. Right. And we'll talk about that a little bit, how like what readers are looking for, and the things that stick with us as writers are things that are outliers, that are unusual. And that's not generally the kind of thing that an AI generated plot or even an AI generated book is going to provide for you. Right.
Okay.
But we're trying to save you from the court of public opinion of readers saying, as they did with Shy Girl, hey, we suspect that you used a bunch of AI in your book, and they go by that off of a feeling that they have. So we're not talking about a legal thing of a copy of Stacy and I being copyright detectors that can somehow work for the
Sleuth it
Copyright
out.
Office. Don't
Yeah.
call us and say, hey, this is AI, this is not. We're talking about a feeling, a personal feeling that we get because AI has a unique voice.
Right.
Now, in a minute, I'm gonna let Stacy tell you about all her qualifications for doing this. But the reason I want to say this part, even though she said it when we weren't recording, is because Stacy brags on me all the time. And I so much want her to stop sometimes, but
Yeah, I
it's
know.
really hard. But so Stacy has literally, and I'll let her tell you the story, but she's literally read thousands of examples of AI writing over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
At least 1,000 examples,
At
probably
least.
more
Probably
when we
more like
count
closer to 2.
novels.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us not only read, so we read as a part of our jobs as editors, we read at least a couple dozen manuscripts a year that are in rough format. So this
Mm-hmm.
is not a published manuscript. This is your rough manuscript that you send us that cause us to drink and things like that, right? Those manuscripts, those are the ones we read, but those are the ones we also work on, right? We do a couple of dozen of those a year, each of us do. And we read books outside for fun and for pleasure. We were talking about we do that to kind of cleanse our palate a little bit and get
Mm-hmm.
some good literature in us. But we literally read example after example after example of books in ways that most readers and most other writers as well do not read level the books to that volume
That's
because
true.
their job is not reading like our job is essentially reading.
Right.
Anyway, but Stacy has a unique circumstance, so I'll let her tell you about that. And
Okay.
then I'm going to say a couple things about reading in general, and then we'll move into
And then we'll give
our
you our
main we'll
tips
give
and
you
tricks.
our main
Mm-hmm.
tips and
The
tricks and
meat.
tools that we're going to give you for free today, give you some meat for
Mm-hmm.
free. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's do
Okay.
that. So
So
Stacy, take it away.
first and foremost, I want to point out something that you guys probably, and because we said it on our last not recording. I wanted to point out that my husband showed me an article today that that announced that writer and author Alex Preston was the journalist who wrote the article about Shy Girl for the New York Times. He has been fired by the New York Times because he used AI to write his article, and that article plagiarized a previously published version of the review from The Guardian on Shy Girl. So even though he's not getting canned because of what he wrote about Shy Girl, but because he wrote it using AI and it plagiarized The Guardian, and he didn't. So yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just thought of this. I didn't think of this last time you said that. Do you think that AI pulled that review from The Guardian and pulled
Mm-hmm.
it in enough detail
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't that he went and read a Guardian review.
No,
AI pulled it
AI
from the
probably
Guardian
pulled it and
review.
used it in his
Oh,
article.
dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reporters,
So
please.
yeah,
Anyway.
so anyway, the
Oh,
language appears to be lifted from the Guardian review, including descriptions of characters, and they're very like key phrases like that they could obviously point to the Guardian about. So anyway, that's this is where we go. This is why we say that the AI it's not to be trusted. It is not to be trusted. So the reason Troy was talking about my unique position and how I can spatially hear AI when I'm reading is because for years I've been working for a company that helps doctors come to the United States and apply for medical licenses so that they can train here in the United States. In that process, it's very arduous and meticulous and awful. And these poor people speak English as a second language. English is a horrible language to learn. So it's very easy. Did you talk about it in this one about did you quote
no.
Claire? Okay. Well, I'll let you
No,
quote
not yet.
Claire.
I'm going to get to
Okay.
that. I'm going to
Yeah.
get to that.
So, because now I'm confused because we were
That's
talking
okay.
about this earlier. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm going to say that is exactly what happened
Doctors.
with these doctors. The doctors that were using AI these last 3 years. I work with between 300 and 500 students, doctors every season as they're applying for these applications. That's not the total, that's not the bulk. There's thousands upon thousands of these guys that come to the United States to train, but I get assigned between 300 to 500 of these amazing humans that come to our country to learn. Anyway, for years I would read their stories, saving people in earthquakes and like just amazing heroic like ways that these doctors come to this profession. But over the last 3 years, I've noticed this very invasive AI voice being used because they're using AI to write these personal statements, and it's scrubbing, for lack of a better term, it's scrubbing their personalities out of these manuscripts. So I was not hearing these stories anymore. I was just hearing these very vanilla, I want to become a doctor because I have family that used to be a doctor, like there was nothing, none of these none of the flaws were there anymore. And so I was constantly like getting frustrated because, now instead of reading these amazing stories and just having to help the English be clear, I was now getting these very generic vanilla statements that were very well written, but not at all, no personal, there was no personality in them. And it's
we should point out here that that's what these boards are looking for.
They were looking for this,
because the purpose of the personal statement isn't just to tell your little story in as grammatically correct a way as possible. What they're looking for is, who is this person and will they make a good doctor?
Yeah.
And that's not what's coming out of them using Chat GPT to sanitize their story.
No,
the personalities being gone.
Their personalities are gone. And so what's coming out is just a very like, yes, I'm getting this paragraph that says this, I'm getting this paragraph there's a structure to the personal statements that we're looking for. They have the personal statement structure is there, but everything else is it's just garbage. So I was getting very, very frustrated with this whole process. But like I said, I read, each doctor gives me these personal statements. I'm reading between 3 to 500 twice, plus their CVs, their curriculum vitae. And then, so I'm getting a sense of who these people are. But the voice is gone. Their voices are gone. So that's why I could hear it. I can hear AI's voice because it's very, like I said, there's a very interesting structure to it. So when I get a manuscript, I was going, oh my gosh, this is AI. And even if a writer was in denial about it, which 9 times out of 10, when I confront a writer and I say, did you use AI? They'll say yes. But I would really appreciate it upfront. If if an author comes to me with an AI manuscript, I would really appreciate it if upfront they said, I used AI to write this manuscript, because then I know exactly what problems I'm looking for. But the problem is that like I said, that I can hear it. It wasn't until Troy brought this up that we should probably like actually put a tool together to help authors and readers and to be able to put all this in one place and help them articulate what they're looking for and then to scrub it out. That I went down that deep dive and went in and found all those studies and everything that I was like, oh my gosh, there's the words I've been looking for. Like these people have actually done studies and they've actually picked out these actual phrases that I needed to tell myself, like, this is what this is called. This is what I'm seeing. And this is the repeated problem, right? So that's how come I know Troy, it's the same thing. I'm sure of it because when he and we can sit and talk about a manuscript after we've done a man review and like we can pick up on it. We just couldn't say, yes, this is because Chat GPT and chat detectors, they just say percentage, right?
And part of that is because you're using AI to detect AI. Right.
Very ironic.
Here's the thing, big surprise. AI in that case can hallucinate. AI can be wrong. And human writers who use AI and edit things out of it and stuff like that, can easily fool an AI detector into thinking this is 100% original. There are also some aspects of how AI writes, and we'll get to that people, especially who are new to writing, actually use. So, because AI was trained on writing, unfortunately, it was trained on poor writing, as well as on some good writing. So the problem is, what it gets in is what it outputs. So because it wasn't trained only on the best literature that the world has to offer, it does not output the best literature because it works on a predictive model. We'll talk about that. But one of the things that I talked about is this, and this is, I think, what's happening in large part with AI. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how we're putting the money ahead of the art. So writing is becoming about speed and efficiency instead of about quality and depth, which is
Right.
what really matters to writing. And so while we were doing this, short story, Stacy and I Stacy has like 27 studies she looked at. I have like 10 studies that I looked at because when I got to 10, I figured this is deep enough for me because it reveals everything I
Then Stacy
to
gets
know.
weird.
But I did not know that there were so many
Me neither.
studies
Me neither.
about what AI was doing. But then in the middle of all this, I come across a post by Claire Taylor on Substack. If you don't follow Claire, she's a fantastic Enneagram coach and really great at giving fantastic advice for readers. For writers. Okay. But one of the
She's
things that
amazing.
she said, listen, part of the problem is that writers a lot of times feel like they're constantly drowning. So when someone throws them a life preserver, they grab onto it without looking at what it really is, whether it's really a lifesaver or not. And the way I think of it is this: if you feel frustrated as an author, because let me just preface this part is that I'm working on finishing up two projects now and writing another one, editing through both of them, editing through my own horrible first drafts. And I feel at times like I'm drowning, and you're looking around at other authors and saying they're using AI and it's making their process easier.
It's
And
making
so
it
you're
faster. They're
tossed,
getting more.
make it faster, more efficient. They can write books faster and they're going to make more money than me. Well, first of all, it's not about the money. So put that aside. Second of all, set the emotional part aside of it about FOMO and fear of missing out on something new that someone else is using that's going to give them some kind of advantage over you. And stop and think for a minute about why you started this writing thing in the first place. Because if you're feeling frustrated and feeling like you're in the middle of some kind of creative struggle when you're drafting your novel, you are normal. You are in the middle of what I call the chaos of creativity.
That's true.
There is a certain amount of chaos and frustration to the whole process of writing a book. And no matter how many books that you've written, that process repeats itself over and over again. And so when you grab onto AI as a life preserver, thinking this is going to make my writing faster and more efficient, and it's going to reduce this amount of struggle, what you're doing is you're being pulled out of your creativity and out of the very thing that you love so much and into some kind of safety. Creativity has never been about being safe.
No.
It's not. It's been about pushing the boundaries and about letting yourself sit and work through the struggle. As Hemingway said, you just have to sit down at your keyboard and bleed, open a vein and bleed. Okay. That's what you're putting something yourself in every single work that you create. For me, that is the passion. That's the reason that I do this in the first place. So I would love to tell you, don't use AI, or at a minimum, don't overuse AI. That is an unrealistic
It's
statement.
unrealistic.
AI is here. Writers are using it for a variety of things, from ideation and from which we're going to talk about, of like selecting the names of your characters. We're going to talk about that. So ideas, plot, selecting the names of your characters, to writing your drafts. Writers are using it for all those things. Well, there are consequences for that, and those consequences are actually okay. They're just natural consequence of using a new tool. And so we're going to talk about those in a non-emotional, not attached to or not attached to AI, not attached to or not attached to AI, and saying AI is good, AI is bad. We're not saying any of that. We're saying this is the product that AI typically creates if you
And this
use
is
AI to
how
write your
to
manuscript
deal with it.
or to ideate, and this is how to deal with it. Okay, so understand, this is not a pro AI podcast. This is not an anti AI podcast. This is an AI is here, so let's learn to deal with it in the reality that we deal with every day podcast.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Fair. We're coming to the middle, like we
Coming to the
usually
middle.
do, which I usually get attacked
We
for
usually
from
get
both
attacked for.
sides. That's okay. Come on, bring on the attacks. But right now, let's just look at what AI is doing. So this includes things as simple as asking AI for names of your characters. So let's
Right.
talk about those things. So
Okay.
how do you want me to
So yeah,
shoot
so
you topics first? Or do
let's
you
start.
want to?
Let's first start with this. Like, let's first identify some of the things that we've noticed with AI. So first and foremost, you need to know that there are lexical ticks. This is kind of like the ticks is kind of the word that I noticed was kind of synonymous across all these studies. A lot of people use this as the term, but it's basically, that's kind of like ticks or traits is what they were calling the different things that come out of tells. Yeah. So, but in the studies that I read, that's kind of what the ticks and the traits are kind of what they were pointing out. I do want you to understand that if you're going to try to compile a list, before we get into these things, if you want to compile a list of things to add to your prompts to ask the AI to scrub from the AI outputs, there are studies that I have cited here that I'm going to include in our tool that we're going to give away. Like, you guys can get this on our website. We're going to give this away. This is free, but the citations include a study that actually talks about, I'm going to quote it. It says that when you try to use prompts to eliminate robotic neutrality, that's my words, it will actually, their words say that they found, quote, instruction tuning appears to make the model output less human, not more, unquote. So basically what they found, and they have all the data. Like, so if you want to read the studies, I'm a graph nut. So when I see studies with, like, when I see pie charts and crap, they have a splatter grid or whatever, where you see all the dots and you can see, they show the output from like over 300 some odd manuscripts that they put in there that were human generated, and then some that were put in that were AI generated, and like what happens with the AI output. And it all made it sound even more robotic when you try to tune out all of the AI ticks. So you're not going to find that the easy button gets easy if you add these easy prompts to, like the surefire way to get rid of AI in your manuscript is going to be painstakingly tedious. It's going to be line by line, sentence by sentence, word by word. Sorry, that's just the way it is. It's the way I have to edit when I get a manuscript. It's not easy. That's why they pay us what they pay us to do this. So I'm just going to say that before we start giving you guys this list and you think, oh, I'm going to just add these to my prompts.
Well, and first of all, so into your prompt, even when you're dealing with data, it doesn't work for an AI. What you have to do is make it do the same process over and over and over and over again, which is exactly what we do as editors. We have different passes we do over your manuscript, and we do things over and over and over again, because each time we're looking for something specific. AI does not have the capacity, when you tell it to remove something, what it doesn't understand what to do is what to replace it with.
Right.
So what happens when you tell it to remove these things from your manuscript is it does a very good job of removing them without replacing it with something else. So it feels choppy.
Or it will replace it, but it replaces it
up
with the same exact type of pattern.
with the same thing, or with a different variation of the same pattern.
And Troy said it before.
It's almost impossible to get AI to. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You said it before, and I said it in my I say it in my I was laughing when you said it, because I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote that, because it was funny. But I said in my introduction to this tool, I talk about, it's ironic using AI to scrub AI from your AI written manuscript. It's very ironic. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the only thing you can do is just put your human back on.
Right. Which is the whole thing. And like, I did a whole talk on this at a conference that was super interesting. One of the best received talks at the conference. And basically I said, how do you be human in the age of AI? And the answer is be human. There's
The
certain
human.
aspects of our writing that involve you as a human. Now, you can if you struggle to write a draft and you need to use AI as a tool to help you write that draft and then
Okay.
scrub all the things out of it, just understand that's going to be a lot of work, and we're going to tell you a lot about that work. But also, I want to give you some we want to give you some cautions about things like, so one of the first things we're going to talk about, this is a good segue into it, is
Okay.
we're going to talk about naming characters.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
So we're going to talk about naming characters. I'm going to give you just a couple quick examples. I'm going to let Stacy take over. Well, one of these things is you ask AI to name a character for you, and it'll give you a name that sounds sort of like a name. It sometimes sounds even pretty impressive. Like it's got a couple different, it's got, the surname is American, the last name is uh, French, something like that. It sounds sophisticated, it sounds cool and stuff like that. But AI is drawing from, and we'll talk about this over and over, but it's drawing from predictability. So
Mm.
what is a predictable name of a good main character for a sci-fi novel? So one of the things we joke about all the time is that Alara Voss is a very common AI name. Now, earlier when Stacey and I were talking before we were recording, Stacey did an experiment. Stacey, share with us about your experiment because it's so funny.
I thought maybe with the whole like that the AI is like advancing, right? Like we're expecting this AI to be constantly like learning, but apparently it doesn't learn as fast
Mhm.
as we're learning about it being a fast learner, because I thought for sure that by now, like as much as we joke about this in the industry about Alara Voss, and oh my gosh, she's showing up in everybody's manuscripts. I thought maybe that
Everybody, yeah,
I thought that
everywhere.
maybe I thought maybe that chat might be adjusting, and it does. It adjusts by one letter. I put in the prompt. I put in the prompt, I need a solid name for a female protagonist in a sci-fi fantasy novel, and this is the first name it came up with: Calera Voss. With a K. So instead of
Oh,
Alaravos, it
yes.
was Caleravos. It did give me like 15 others, but guys, it's no joke. Zara Vale. The other one that always shows up is Cade. Did we say Cade? Yeah,
Cade.
Cade.
Yeah.
I
Here,
mean,
let me
get
give
this:
you my list.
Nova
Okay.
Cade, Nova Kane,
Novocaine, right?
Nova Cade,
Novocaine, right?
or
Elena
Nova.
Vasquez,
Elena Vasquez. Yeah.
Marcus Chen.
Yeah.
Now, here's the super common one, Dr. Thorne. Now, this one in the study that I looked at appeared 204 times across 26 AI generated book descriptions.
Jeez.
204 times across 26,
Yeah, it's funny.
right? Uh, Anya is another one.
Oh, guess what
What
showed up on my hybrid? Oh, and the AI says
Callaway and
my personal
Graves. Callaway and Graves.
favorites. My personal favorites for your space balanced and brandable novel. It says this, the AI is so good at like boosting the ego, right?
Complimenting you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Guess
complimenting.
what? It was Sierra Thorne.
Sierra Thorne. Thorne is just one of the most common last names. And the thing is, what's
Wow.
interesting is that could be symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Thorne is actually a great last name in some instances, except that now you can't use it. And here's the thing, because of the way AI is trained, and
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of authors who are putting their entire manuscript in AI without the
Without locking it
space
down.
of an API or without locking it down, which you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You can lock things down so that it is not used, your manuscript is not used for training, but authors are just going to AI,
They're just
frustrated,
throwing it in there.
grasping for that lifesaver, right? That we talked
Mm-hmm.
about. And that little ring that someone's thrown to this drowning author, and they're putting their whole manuscript into AI with no filter in there or no protection, and then they're telling it, please help me fix this manuscript, and they're giving it a bunch of different instructions, right? So what's happening is the more writers do that, who are using AI to pick names for their characters, the more often Alara Voss appears, because
Mhm.
Alara Voss has appeared in hundreds of sci-fi novels in the last 2 years. The instances before the last 2 years, before AI came along, was 26. There were 26 novels with Alara Voss in it. In the last 2 years, I don't remember what the number is, 140
It's
or
over.
something like
It's
that.
like, yeah, it's over. I thought I saw over 200.
I think it may be over 200 instances in the last 2 years. What does that tell you? Those authors are using AI to help them pick names at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, and look, there's no shade, nothing wrong with it. It's just that what you need to do is be aware that you need to check those names because of the popularity. If you have a Dr. Thorne in your story, understand there's a Dr. Thorne in 200 other stories in your genre right now.
So the thing
Like,
that I wanted to reiterate with this whole process is like with names specifically and with everything. And really, you got to remember the AI is pulling from a database and a large language model that has been trained on provenly, that's a new word, proven
provenly.
stolen material. Like it not just good manuscripts, guys, bad ones. And it threw all of them in that LLM and trained that AI on those manuscripts. So the stuff that it's outputting is based on those. And so you're going to get the same information. And like this poor reporter just found out, when you're putting something into Chat GPT, it's not creating something new, it's regurgitating. It's regurgitating something
Well,
it's already
and
been fed.
oh, let me go off on one thing really quick about this thing is a lot of times when you're doing something like you're pulling from a book review or something like that, like this journalist did,
Mm-hmm.
AI will actually tell you the source where it pulled it from.
Mm-hmm.
It will give you that source. It'll give you the website where it pulled it from. It will give you a list of sources or a list of studies where this information came from, right? As a journalist, it is your job to check that source and then cite that source if you're going to use it that exactly. All he had to do was say, as per a review in The Guardian, and
Yeah.
link to their article, and he would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't pay attention to the output of the AI, probably in his haste, in his speed to create an article faster and more efficiently, and not thinking about the quality of the article he was producing. Listen, guys, listen. Okay. We talk about speed and efficiency with AI all the time, but nobody says that was the most amazing novel of the decade that AI just created. No, it's creating a repeatable product that,
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely you can sell. Yes, absolutely you can get page reads in Kindle Unlimited, but it is not you. It is not the highest quality work that can be produced. Okay. So and that's what's being constantly fed back into the AI as well, is the same type of work. It's being trained on the same type of thing. It's a predictive. The thing about names is the reason behind it is it's a predictability model. It
One of
is
the things,
picking the most predictable, reliable name.
right. One of
So
the things
yeah,
that I want you guys to be aware of, I mean, this is one of your tools for how to get rid of this stuff. I want you to understand this going from, I want you to remove the fear of being of having mistakes, of making mistakes. I want you to remove the fear. I want you to it's so hard because there's so many people out there that are critical of you and you feel like, I don't want to be criticized. I don't want people to hate me. I will tell you honestly, I've had that very fear. I have that very fear right now because for the longest time, Troy and I were like happily undiscovered. Like, and lately it's
yeah,
just like with our last podcast, I'm like, oh, we're getting a lot of people that are seeing us now. And it's like,
yeah,
they're making comments and I'm like, we're up for scrutiny and people are going to be criticizing and they have a lot to say. There's always going to be haters, right? But the thing that I have to keep reminding myself of, and I need you guys to remind yourself of, is that you're not for everybody, and that's okay. And you need to be okay for that, with that. And honestly, the more mistakes you make, especially today in the age of AI, the better, because then people know that you're you. One of the things that I can tell, honestly, I watch YouTube when I'm trying to, like, I guess what's another, when I try to go numbering, like,
Decompress,
yeah, like when I'm just
decompress,
going,
and yeah,
yeah, I just want to,
mindless.
I don't want to think about anything. So what I will do is I'll put on, I have a few of my favorites. Shout out to a few of you guys. But one of my faves is the behavior panel. I just love those guys, those four guys. I love it when they razz each other. I love it when they make mistakes. But when they make mistakes, they like to call each other out. They even leave the freezes. Like sometimes, like in their older podcasts, you'll see, like, if somebody's like Zoom froze up, they'll pretend like that the other person is talking, or like they'll pretend like they're on mute, and they'll be like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, okay, and then like, yeah. But it's funny. What's funny about it is it's just them being them. That's one of the reasons why Troy and I don't over edit these podcasts. We've never over edited them from the beginning, because we wanted people to know that we weren't just talking heads. We weren't on here reading a script. We were doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing. And that's just being us as professionals. People, the reason we started this podcast in the first place was strictly because somebody told us one time that they wanted to be a fly on the wall when he and I talk shop, because we just would talk about
Mhm.
things that we were working on or ways that we were approaching a problem. And so that's why we started this podcast in the first place. So that's what you guys are going to get from us. But the thing that you guys need to know is that people are looking for that in manuscripts too. They're looking for that. They
Right.
want the flaws. They want the
Well, yeah,
flaws.
what they want is authenticity and
Right.
originality. We just
Right.
saw, like, a couple weeks ago, Stacey and I were both watching an interview with the CEO of Macmillan, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things he said is what they're looking for when they look through
Outliers.
submissions is they're looking for the outliers,
Mm-hmm.
not the same old thing. Which
Mm-hmm.
brings us, like, all of this brings us back to the fact that basically there's a predictability factor with AI, and so as a result, it overuses the same words.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is, like, we as editors, like when I'm going through a manuscript, I will start to see words repeated and I'll be like, that's weird. Let me
How
double
many
check. In
times is
fact, I
this
just
in
was on the phone
there?
with an author and I'm like, how many times before something are when we going to say this particular thing? And it turned out a lot. So I
Yeah.
went, highlighted them all so I could find them all as I was reading through the manuscript, right? But I just went through and had word yellow highlight all of them so that
Mm-hmm.
every time I get to that word, I have to look at it and go, particular, this particular instance, do we need particular for this particular thing, right?
Yeah.
But authors reuse words, right? But it turns out that AI reuses words too and uses the same words over and over, but words that are not always normal to typical fiction. Some of them are, but some of them are not. So delve is one of the ones that's the
Delve is
most
one
popular.
that that like, there's studies
Everywhere.
about the word delve. By the way, people,
Yeah.
and then we even got some comments about, from people in our last podcast, about like delve. I use delve all the time. Well, I do too, actually. Like, I
Yeah.
have a
Me
weird
too.
vocabulary. I say things that, like, I know my kids will be like, "Mom, why are you saying that?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Like, I speak weird
Yeah.
sometimes. It's because of the reading, right? It's because of what we read.
Yeah. Because of
We
all the reading.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do different things. We
And
use different
but
words. But
but yeah, I couldn't
delve
wait
is
to
a big
delve
one.
into this topic.
Yeah,
Delve
well,
into
like we
this
de-
topic.
we
This
delve,
particular
yeah,
topic
this
about delve. I took a deep delve into this topic. Okay, but give us some other examples, Stacey. I have a list, but I want to hear your list first, and then I
okay.
might not need to use mine.
Well,
Let's
some
see.
of them, like, okay, in the latest manuscript that I'm doing, and I'm not going to call her out because honestly this manuscript is one of my favorites, but I've noticed the word sharp. Um Sharp is a word that I'm noticing the AI is using a lot. I also noticed the word hum, quietness, stillness. Usually these are they call these traits, like the words that I'm pointing out here, they're usually associated with what some people I call a ghost, in that non um they're non-tactile, they're very like abstract ideas. So for example,
Right.
like when you're talking about a feeling, like love or hate, or like that tension that's built up in a
Oh,
room or something, and there's the AI will want to write something in there. It'll talk
oh,
about the hum of the room was tasted like salt, and you'll be
mhm.
like, what? It doesn't make
What?
sense. There's nothing
Yeah.
salty in the
This is
story.
so I call these
Things
something
like that.
different.
Oh, okay. What do you
I
call
call
them?
them an emotional cliche,
Yeah, that makes sense. That
right?
makes sense.
So
Yeah.
it's like a wave of emotion washed over, sent a
Hmm.
shiver, a knot formed in his stomach, heart hammered in chest, sense of unease settled over the
Yeah.
room, the
Yeah.
weight of whatever abstract noun, the weight of the silence pressed down on him or her.
Yeah. And you know
Something
what?
shifted in his her
Oh, shift.
expression.
Shift was the
Um,
other word. Shift.
shift. Shift
Shift.
is another one. But
Yeah.
here's a list of just the words. So one of them is okay, tapestry,
Oh, yeah.
resonate, navigate, commendable, meticulous, meticulous. Oh my goodness, meticulous. I've
I
noticed
love
that
that
one a
word.
lot. Nuanced, multifaceted. I love that
I
word. Some of
love
these I love these
multifaceted.
words.
I love that
Comprehensive.
word.
Furthermore and
So
moreover are really an old way of saying things, but
I
the
still say
AI
them.
uses these.
But I'll say,
Me too.
let me point this out. Now, it's not that you're using them once in a manuscript, guys. That this is what you need to understand. Why we're
Hmm.
pointing these words out is it's not that they're used once, twice, or even 10 times. It's when they're used
Oh yeah, no.
hundreds of times. That's what
Several
we're trying to
times
say.
a page.
You say, yeah. So, like in the case of shift, in this latest manuscript I'm doing, I've removed so far probably over 200 of the word shift. I just checked before Troy and I got started again because I wanted to see how many of the words. The other word I checked was what was it that
Sharp,
I told you?
sharp,
Sharp. Yeah.
sharp.
I am like more than 2/3 done with this book. And there are still over 120 more instances of the word sharp in this manuscript. And I know I've scrubbed out at least a couple hundred already. So you have to understand that these aren't they're not bad words. You can't just do a seek and find and then just
No,
remove all of
no.
them. That's not what we're trying to you
Oh
need to
yeah,
know it's the overuse of these words. It's the overuse.
right. So don't take a list that somebody gives you or that we give you the part of this tool and just search those and say,
Mhm.
oh, there's
This
four
means
of
that they're using AI.
these in my 300 word manuscript. It means I'm using way too many. No, what we're talking about is when these words are used over and over and over and over and over again.
To
Now,
the
the,
point where
the
you're like you
problem
can't
with that
unsee
is,
it. Yeah.
yeah, the problem with that is humans tend to do this too. So, like,
Mhm.
I had an author, and what I tell people is what's beautiful about this is you as a human writer, you're going to the in one manuscript, you're going to overuse a word, and I, as an editor, am going to point it out to you, and you're going to do everything in your power in your next manuscript to not overuse that word. You're just going to choose a different one and overuse that instead, right? It happens all the time.
All
Like
the
people
time.
have edited their whole series. Like I'm like, this book, the word was that. In this book, we didn't have hardly any that. We just had a whole bunch of some. And in this book, we had, and I mean, so as humans, we tend to do this too. So the problem is this cannot be seen necessarily as a 100% AI indicator, but we can tell
No.
you, first of all, it is going to hurt you in the court of reader opinion when you
Mhm.
repeat words like that anyway. So it's something you should watch out for anyway. If you have more than one or two words that you overuse constantly in a novel, what that usually means is that you did use AI or some form of it, or the rephrase feature in Pro
In
Writing Aid
Writing Aid. Mhm.
or Grammarly or whatever the
Right.
case may be, or rewrite. Is it rewrite in Grammarly? I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
which
think it's
one's which.
rewrite or yeah,
But
there's
anyway,
rewrite,
whichever
there's a
one,
lot of them.
whichever ones those are, if you're using those tools, they're going to rewrite with very similar language. Okay. And that's humans use similar language too, but if it's over and over and several different words, we know we have to suspect that you may have used AI, right? Even if you
Mhm.
didn't, it's good to go and eliminate those things anyway. So find those things that you repeat over and over and kill them. But don't just take this list we're giving you and say, okay, well, that means that if I'm using these words, I must have used AI. And so I've got to eliminate all of them. Don't do
No,
that.
don't do
Don't
that.
do that. Okay,
Um,
that's not
I
good.
I will point out that you want to make sure that when you're writing, you're okay. I'm going to give you one of my tips, and this is a pre-AI tip, guys. This is a tip that I'm giving all my authors all the time, and I need you guys to hear it. When you're choosing words, you need to know that each word has a connotation, specifically verbs and nouns. They'll have connotations, either positive or negative connotations, right? If you
Oh,
haven't been
yeah.
if you haven't been in a creative writing class and you're just writing off of instinct, this is what you need to know when you're choosing words. That's why I say every book that I have on my shelf, it's painfully, I'm painfully aware of how careful we are about the words we choose, because when you set the tone in your book using a specific noun or verb, you're usually picking a connotation that helps set that tone. So, for example, when somebody's walking into a room and they want people to feel an ominous feeling, they may say that the walls were a dreary gray. But if they wanted the same room to look cheerful, or they wanted the author to, or the reader to feel in a cheerful way, they could say that it was a happy gray, or that it was a bright and vibrant, gray, like the storm, like the when the clouds clear after a storm, see, there's like a different, there's a
Mhm.
more uplifting. But if it's more like dismal, you're going to turn like when the clouds roll in and a storm is about to happen.
Mhm.
There's a different feeling, right? That's connotation. So when the AI is writing, it doesn't understand connotation. It is really bad at it. It's not good at
Mhm.
feeling it. What it does, it always just picks this very basic, like almost like I
It's
said, vanilla
it's
middle.
Switzerland.
Yeah, it's like
It's the
Switzerland.
Switzerland. It's the
Hmm.
Switzerland of description.
Right,
Okay, and
right.
and it does things. So I mean, and I just ran and got a couple books for those of you that are on video and just saw me
Oh,
duck
good.
off the video and come back. There's a couple books. This one's called. Now I'm going to tell you ahead of time, since I showed this guy's name. Some people are going to be upset about him. He was shown to be not the greatest of human beings.
Hmm.
But I'm sorry for that. If you don't want to support him in any way, go buy these in a used bookstore. He doesn't get any money for it. You can probably find them. This one's called Verbalize. It's about action, using the right action verbs to show
Okay.
action for your character. This one's called Activate. Same type of thing. It's basically, this is more of a thesaurus, like a reference book of
Hmm.
actions and tactics to give your fiction more dynamic feel to it. Um, AI doesn't do that because it wants to, it's the most predictable. Again, it's a predictive model. It's the most predictable thing.
Hmm.
But there are other areas where AI tries to not be predictable, which is incredibly predictable. And that,
So
and that is,
so ironic.
it's what I call the variation problem. So
Oh
normally
yeah.
when writing dialogue, when you and I
Hmm.
are writing dialogue as writers, we use a pronoun or the person's name in the dialogue tag,
Hmm.
typically. AI tries to come up with something else. So it'll say things like the girl, the boy, the woman, the detective, the doctor, the whatever, and it'll come up with some variation of that character, the brunette, right? Well,
Or
okay, that's not super effective for identifying someone in dialogue, number one. And number two, it doesn't, it feels, how do I say that it feels? It feels contrived. It feels manufactured.
hmm.
It feels like I'm trying not to do one thing, so I overdo another. It's like engineering a manuscript instead of writing it.
Yeah. I will say one of the other things that I'm noticing AI does a lot lately, and like I said, what I'm seeing is in dialogue tags specifically. It loves this anyway, but prepositional phrases, man, gerunds. Oh gosh, the
Oh,
overuse of
oh,
gerunds, it's out of control. But one of the things it'll do is they'll throw in these phrases in the middle of sentences. One, and particular with dialogue tags that I'm seeing. And again, I have writers that have this in their writing voice. So I don't want you to think that I'm pointing this out and saying this is a clear indication of AI. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the overuse, I'm always going to preface that the overuse of this particular thing. It's the dialogue tag being Troy says you walking toward the exit, or Troy says hitting his hand with his thumb, or like there's always a gerund phrase after that. It's like it's almost like, why do you keep saying that? Like, and it's over and over and over and over every sentence. It's really overused.
Well, what it's doing is what AI is trying to avoid is a plain dialogue tag. So it's trying to enhance every dialogue tag instead. The problem is that plain dialogue tags, for most of us,
sometimes
disappear in fiction, which is why we use he said and she said, because those disappear when you're a reader. You hardly pay attention to those. So when you add an additional beat, like a gerund phrase, what it is you're deliberately slowing the reader down to tell them to pay attention to this particular action because it's meaningful.
Right.
Instead, AI tries to make every action meaningful. And one thing I want to point out is, as we're saying these are overused things, not only is this in many ways an indicator of AI, but let's just be honest,
it's just bad writing.
So it's not the kind of bad writing that's like you don't know where to put a verb or a comma. Instead, it's the kind of bad writing where you're overusing certain techniques or overusing certain words to try to accomplish a certain literary or particular writerly feel for your fiction, and failing to do so. So even if you didn't use AI and you have these problems, let's just point out that there's still problems.
Right.
Like, that's still a problem.
So
that is still a negative.
One of the things that I was going to point out, like with this in specifics, is that you're right. The AI is pulling and using these overused gerund phrases and things like that. But it's you might be thinking that you're prompting it out of there by like using these higher end like Llama and all these other AIs that are out there that do a better job writing than the chat, right? But the thing is, though, is those still do this. Those still make these same mistakes, and they overdo it. And so again, we're saying that the way to get rid of these is to go in there and you're going to have to remove them or change the way the sentence is structured. We've always said as editors that one of the ways that you keep the interest of the reader is to change the pacing and the length of sentences to help the reader kind of pace through and understand like what's happening without boring them, right? If you have the same sentence structure over and over and over and over again, your reader is going to get tired of it. And again, that predictability is going to come in and your reader is going to go again. Like, and that's how that was that thing that I told you I could feel, but I couldn't articulate. It's that rhythmic syntax that AI uses over and over and over and over and over again. And it's hard to scrub out of your brain. In fact, it's so hard for me to scrub out of my brain now that when I turn on a YouTube video, and if I hear within 3 sentences that rhythmic syntax, I completely close out the video and say, it's AI. And I don't even want to hear it. I go on to the next video because I don't want to hear it. So it's something to pay attention to in your own writing, because and it is something you're going to have to be, like I said, again, comfortable with making mistakes, comfortable with being different, comfortable with sounding like not what you think might sound polished. You got to remember the AI is pulling from polished manuscripts, especially the Llama one. There's a couple other AIs out there that pull from like very high end, well-reviewed manuscripts. That's what it's learning from, right? Is these things. And in those, you'll see things like that's why the M dash doesn't go away, because that used to be a it was actually a reserved punctuation mark
It was
that
very
usually
literary.
it was very literary, and it was something that was not used commonly. You would see it very uncommon because, and it's very specific. The reason that I, as an editor, even let those in is when there's a specific tone, feeling, tempo that we're trying to accomplish in that sentence. And using an em dash all the time, what it is it's lazy writing. And if you'll notice, AI tends to remove pronouns. That's another thing that you'll see. You'll see things like running, you'll see very like sentence fragments, and you'll see like running through the store, running through the store, he picked up his, tissue. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you'll
Running through the store, grabbing a soda, grabbing a this,
yeah,
picking up this
doing
without
this without
without the
and there's
subject.
periods.
And every one of those sentences is short and choppy.
And they're and
And the reason we
grammatically
use those,
they're fragments.
grammatically they're fragments, but the reason we use those in mysteries and thrillers is to increase tension.
Right.
When you want to increase tension, you shorten the paragraphs and shorten the sentences. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And the reader feels the rhythm just like a drum. Slow drum, don't, and then we feel boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And we know
exactly
is speeding up. Something's going to happen. There's tension.
Right.
Well, the problem with AI is a lot of times that tension relief is that the character gets to the checkout counter with their stuff and they check out.
Right.
There's no payoff for the tension. So we as readers are very confused and it feels wrong. Why? Because we've affected the pacing, not because we've affected the pacing in a negative way in the wrong circumstance. But AI feels like, well, this is a time when the person is taking action. So I shorten this and make it more tense and make it more. No, because that's not going to help.
It doesn't understand it. So
one
when
of the
you
other
have,
things I was going to mention.
So I was going to say, just
Oh,
with
go
that,
ahead, go ahead.
just your tip with those em dashes is instead convert them to periods and commas. You guys, the em dash, I'll tell you grammatically what it's used for. It's used in place of a comma or in place of a parentheses. Guys, that's what an em dash is. If you're using it when you're not, that's what it's for.
Yep.
So when if you can't put that clause in a parentheses, or if you can't offset it with commas and you feel like that makes no sense, remove the damn em dash and rewrite the whole damn sentence. Hate to say it, but that's just what it is. So nowadays, when I see an em dash, I immediately just remove it and I start rewriting a sentence because they're just overused. People don't understand what they're for. It's much like William, not William, but like my husband, like Troy and I, when we fight over semicolons, he talks about how you don't use a semicolon in fiction. And I love semicolons, but but it's the same thing. It's like that em dash is going to trigger something in a reader's mind. They really don't know why it's there, why it's being used, except people think, well, that's when I would take a long breath. No, that's not what it's for. So you use an em dash for interruptions and
that's
or
not
commas
what you're doing with it.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, the most common correct use of em dashes that I see in fiction is an interruption in dialogue and conversation.
Yeah,
somebody talks over somebody else. Boom, em dash works beautifully. So a part of this is conventional type stuff, but so we keep moving. We get to at least a few other things before we talk about the tool. Another thing is hedging and qualifiers. This is another thing that AI does really frequently, and the reason is because AI is human, so they don't understand. It doesn't understand what this situation is. So when they say it seemed to, or it appeared to, or couldn't help but, or found herself, something like that, those are qualifiers, which first of all, we usually want to remove from fiction anyway. But usually when AI does it, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
They'll say something like a spear in a tomato. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Like, dude? Where does that? Yeah.
A spear in a tomato. Like, if I saw that in anybody's writing, I would be like, this is something that doesn't fit. But it's also just a qualifier. Instead of saying something like, describe the thing to us. Now, if you need a qualifier to explain the flux capacitor in your DeLorean, then sure, use that, right? But most of the time, it's not the answer. It's lazy writing. It is writing that slows the pace of your novel and writing that has the potential to confuse your reader if they don't understand what the thing is that you're comparing something to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then it doesn't work because your reader doesn't get it. Like they don't get it. And so it
That's
causes a
funny.
moment for them to stumble as they read through the book.
One of the things that I've noticed that AI kind of does, and this doesn't probably not on our list. It's not on, I don't think it's on my list either, but it's something that just it occurred to me is that when as creatives, we tend to like we're always looking for the perfect word, right? We're always looking for that perfect word, the word that just like encapsulates everything that we were just trying to like help the reader see. And there have been many times where I've picked up a book, um, many times, and that I can remember, where a writer, and it doesn't happen often because it's usually just one word or two words in a whole entire book, but the writer will put a word in there that I actually have to look up. I'm like, where did that word
Mhm.
come from? And and I love it because it makes me like again, it grows my vocabulary, it helps me understand something, but it also helps me understand like that writer had to look for the perfect word. Well, just in this latest manuscript that I'm editing, there was a word that AI threw in there that was completely wrong. I think it was shifted again. It was shifted probably because I was looking, I was like shifted, I was just getting rid of all the shifted shifts. Anyway, this one particular word, though, it needed a word. It needed one. And I changed, wouldn't do it. Like it was just not the right word. And I went down a rabbit hole. Like I went looking for the perfect word and I found one. And I even thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to put this word in here. And there are people going to be like, what the hell? What does that even mean? But I had to remember that I have done this with books. Like I'll read a book and I'll be like, what does that word mean? And I'll go look for it. And when I find that word and I see how perfectly it fits in that manuscript, it's almost like I want to give the author the chef's kiss because they found the word that meant what they meant to say, right? That was this moment. I had it was such a satisfying moment, honestly, Troy. I actually closed the computer and I was like, oh, that was a good word.
I did that. Look at what I did. That's a good word.
That's a good
And
word.
but it's true sometimes because like us as writers, a lot of times we will like we struggle to craft like a particular part of the book or an ending into a chapter or ending to the book. We're looking for the particular sentence and the
Yeah,
particular word that means the right thing, right?
right.
AI is going to put in there
Just a generic,
whatever
just
is the most predictable and the fastest.
and the
And this the
fastest.
other thing
Hmm.
that I want to point out that AI does that drives me crazy that is there's a certain tonal flatness across
Yeah,
everything, which is like
everything.
fine if you're writing a textbook, but it's
Hmm.
not fine if you're writing fiction.
Right.
And so, but the other aspect of it is there's an absence of like genuine surprise or like subversion and betrayal by characters. Like
Hmm.
there's just like okay. So one of the things I talk about in my writing course is I talk about how you need conflict, right? You have to have
Right.
conflict. Conflict is what drives story. In our normal lives, we want to avoid conflict, right? Because that's how we have a peaceful life. I keep my wife happy and she doesn't kill me at night. So I don't have to hide the knives in the kitchen and lock them up
Right.
because I don't have to be afraid, right? I don't have to deal with conflict.
Hmm.
But in fiction, conflict is what makes fiction move and what makes stories move. Well, AI provides what I call surface level conflict. And so
Hmm.
this is like physical events, but the deep emotional conflict that we actually relate to as humans and that we like to introduce as writers and that readers love to read, AI has a difficulty in my experience. And hey, if you can do something different, awesome. But in my experience and looking a lot of AI manuscripts, one of the biggest things is there's no depth to the character.
Mm.
There's no depth to the characters. So we're like, okay, so this character isn't feeling. again, like I talk about all the time, writing is feeling, and reading is thinking and feeling. And the two things AI doesn't really do is think and feel.
Right.
So we can, like the old saying of no tears in the author, no tears in the reader is absolutely true. But there's no tears in the AI because it doesn't understand the full impact of sadness.
Right.
Like it's just a concept it doesn't understand. So that tonal flatness and that absence of the genuine subversion and surprise and stuff that we do as humans is just not there. Like it's
Yeah.
just not there. You're just missing the feeling, and there's
It
no other way to say it other than I'm missing the feeling.
yeah.
I'm not feeling it.
What I
Yeah.
came up with in my tool was like that there's a puffery about things. Like it's like an overinflated description of something that really isn't supposed to be overinflated. And so when you get to that tension or you get to that feeling that you're supposed to have, everything else was so puffy that feels the same. And so you get that monotone kind of feeling across your manuscript because
It's
you're all the same.
it's cushiony. It's
Yeah.
cushiony and pillowy. I want to
Mm-hmm.
say, because I'm the plot dude and we talk about the Big Lebowski all the time, I want to say this is what it's like is like bowling with the bumpers that they put in the gutters for
Yeah.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fail because everything just kind of bounces off.
It's just
You know,
very, and
it
it's
kind of
like I
still
said, it's just,
meanders
there's,
down
there's
the
no
lane.
bursts. There's no bursts of emotion. It's a it's metronomic, right? It just kind of just boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom. And it's
And
just,
again, predictable.
it's very
Again,
predictable. Right.
predictable.
Right.
AI is a prediction model. I was telling Stacy, what did I say? My one of my friends who runs a company, it basically his assistant called it neurospicy autocorrect is
Right.
her words for AI. Is neurospicy autocorrect. It's like neurodiverse autocorrect that sometimes says some pretty wild shit, but for the most part is pretty predictable.
Right.
Right? That's what I guess that summarizes like a lot of the things that we're talking about here is it is so predictable. It feels like when we read a manuscript that's super predictable, I'm very disappointed
Yeah.
because I want a
I want a
surprise. I want you
surprise.
to at
Uh-huh.
some point grab me by the lapels and say, look at this thing. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing that, then my compulsion and my desire to know what happens with the characters and to pull that stuff out is really difficult, right? It's just not there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So, so
all right. So
yeah.
what else you got?
So I've got just some more traits, just more or less just the polished emptiness we talked about a little bit. Some of the hallucinated citations or hallucinated
Oh,
specifics.
musicians.
Those
Yeah.
are very normal. Like people know about those. We all know that it hallucinates. There's the overconfident. This is the other thing that drives me crazy is this overconfident like authority or this over assurative voice where it comes through and it's very like I guess what's the word I'm looking for, it's very like complimentary to you, which is like
Yes.
it's almost like it's like a fabricated niceness where the AI is
It's,
telling you you did such
yes.
a great job, you're right, this is the way you should write it. What that does is it again it falsely feeds an ego, but it also is so superficially numbing that it does damage. And I mean, and this is
Yeah.
outside of writing, like outside of writing even it is doing damage. People are going to AI for relationship advice, they're going to AI for therapy, they're going for AI for medical advice. Like honestly people, this is the most ridiculous thing. The AI is trained to tell you exactly what you want to hear, well
Right.
done.
Here's what it is. Here's what it is. And I came up with a perfect phrase just as you said that.
Okay, good.
What it is it's validation without doubt.
Yeah, like
And
it's
let me tell you
scary.
something as a writer. If you are going through the draft of your manuscript the whole
Mhm.
way, you write the whole thing without a single doubt. First of all, I hate you with a passion. because I can't do that, and I want to know how you do it. But the other part is like, that doesn't mean that you've arrived. What that means is that you have a false confidence in your narration with no validation. You're
Right.
just validating yourself.
Right.
Validation without doubt is not the way forward to growth. When
No.
I go to a therapist, I don't want the therapist to say, "Man, you are doing awesome. That's incredible. You're absolutely right in that decision. No one else would make any other decision any differently." I want that person to question me
Right.
and question my premise, like Becca always says, and question my ideas, because the questioning of my ideas and my failures is where I learn,
Right.
right? We don't learn
Exactly.
from constant
Exactly.
validation. The
Right.
whole positive, there's a difference between positive parenting and this over positive parenting that says everything Johnny does is perfect. He's 8. No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like,
Please, for the
that is so
that's
frightening to me. That
yeah,
for the
like
love of God, you're letting an 8-year-old run your house and you wonder why you're stressed out. I can tell you, he's 8. But anyway,
right.
but you know what I mean? Like the whole, but that was the perfect analogy right there, is that without that doubt, that constant syrupy validation is not doing you any favors.
Right.
Critique, what you learn from an editor is from what we tell you to remove from your manuscript, not what we leave a comment that says excellent in
Right.
the margin.
It is nice to hear
That's
from
not
an
what you're learning
editor that
from.
they really like what you're doing, but you don't learn anything. And honestly, I would, I would, I would feel I failed as an editor if I didn't give you constructive criticism, right? Like it would like my job is to give you
Right.
that constructive criticism and to make you a better writer and whatever level writer you are. And if you come to me with a manuscript and I
Well,
don't give you
yeah.
that feedback, oh my gosh, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. I
Um,
have never in my editing career, and you can speak to this too, but in my editing
mhm,
career, I have never gotten a manuscript submitted by an author, whether that's to a publisher or to me as an editor, and I said, this thing is perfect and doesn't need any changes.
right. Not one.
Not one, not one time. And I've edited some well-known best-selling
Mhm,
authors, and I have not found one that I got to it and I said, this is perfect.
right.
No.
So some
So
other
don't, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
just
But go,
don't
go, go, go.
yeah, some other
Other
traits just
trait.
really
Let's
quick.
stay on topic.
Participial phrases, I already talked about this. There's the stacking of clauses. They're a really good
Mhm.
example. He stepped
The 3
forward,
stack.
yeah, that's a 3 stack. He stepped forward, smiling, raising his hand, scanning the room. Like, okay, pick one. That's how I would scrub it. Pick one. He stepped forward, he smiled and raised his hand. Give us some, we're always looking for those active
Mhm.
verbs, like that's what you're doing, right? The other one, nominalization density, which is like it's like being noun heavy. Um, uh, the implementation of a strategy enables the optimization of outcomes. Like what? Like there's a
Oh,
lot of nouns in
yeah.
there. Which one's your subject? Which one's your, like people, sorry about my dogs. There's over formal or academic sometimes talking. There's like that
Mhm.
formal language that we were talking about, unless that's the author's voice. Like when Troy reads a manuscript of mine, he'll see that I have a kind of a formal voice. That's just my voice. But a lot of times I'll get a manuscript from somebody. You guys, just so you know, the average reader in the United States has a reading level between, I think they said between 4th and 7th grade reading level. I think that's what they
Mhm.
say. So you want to keep your
6th
reading
grade is the
level.
reading level
Yeah.
you aim
Right. Like
for.
you're shooting
Yep.
in fiction for a 6th grade reading level. If you guys are writing at a college level or like a post academic level, your readers, one, you're going to lose your readers, but two, also you're going to look like you're using AI because that's not normal. Um, unless you're writing that nonfiction academic paper. We
Yeah.
talked about the spectral imagery clusters, like things like the whisper of memory lingered in the quiet air. Like, what are you talking
Mhm.
about? Those are those ghosts that I was talking about. When there's like this like sensory language that's like attached to an abstract idea. So like my face went hot. Or how about that, more like this, like embarrassment had a sharp metallic texture, like you're like, what, like that, what, how
Yeah.
does that even make sense?
It gives things a sense that they don't belong in.
Yeah, they usually, and
So a
oftentimes, like I
sound,
said, yeah,
the
and
taste of a sound, something
right.
like that.
And oftentimes, like I said, the connotation's wrong. Like the tone, the tonal quality of it is wrong, meaning that it doesn't match the tone of the scene. So you got to be careful of that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, the 3 stacking rule. We all know this one. If it's not X, it's Y. It's not this. It's not this. It's just this. Those stacking, those are automatic. Like just rewrite them. If it says something like this isn't a budget issue, M dash, it's a mindset shift. That's not how people talk. You guys, the budget, you're going to say something like AI. If you're going to change this to a human-ish kind of thing, you would say something like the budget is the symptom. The real problem is that leadership keeps changing. Our priorities are shifting. Or you know what I mean? Like that's more human to say it that way, as opposed to the M dash, it's a mindset shift. That mindset shift is more like, what mindset? What am I shifting? What mindset am I shifting? You want to give people that tangible, something more tangible. So when you're going in and you're doing the rewrites, that's what I mean about being more tangible. Put something that's actually real and
actually real.
Yeah, that they can hold on to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The making sense part of it.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, that's one of the things that sometimes AI doesn't make sense because this is a human concept that AI doesn't fully understand.
Right.
So it's trying to describe something, and it's trying to find a simile or some way to describe it, but because it doesn't understand what it is, because it's not something concrete. This is where we get the ghost that you're talking about, right? Because it doesn't understand what that is.
It's just like
there's another one you haven't mentioned yet that I wanted to mention really quick, and that's the transitions.
Oh, yes.
It loves to create transitions from something to another by saying things like, little did she know.
Oh,
What
yeah.
she didn't realize was, unbeknownst to him. I love that phrase, but I hate it. It's become one that I hate. As if on cue. It was
that
then
adds up on
that,
cue.
they're basically like, this is like what you do if you're giving a speech. This is what I always compare these things to, whether it's AI or human generated. You're doing this to create this bridge. It's like you not quite knowing what you're going to say next in a speech, so you stop and go, excuse me, and then you start in the next part of your speech. It's like the little cough transition. What I mean is, that's what it's like. It's like you're pausing because you're not sure what's next. Now, I don't know if that's in the AI generation that it's pausing for a minute because it doesn't know what's next, or if it's just imitating that because we as humans in poor writing do that.
Yeah, I think it's just imitating.
I think 90% of what we've talked about with AI is it basically acting on predictability cues or imitation, essentially imitation of the things that it's been taught on. Since neither of those things is good or perfect, then the result is that our output is not good or perfect.
Right.
And so what's happening is we're still feeding it the same thing. That's the primary issue with AI. So we keep feeding it the same thing, and so it's going to continue to produce the same thing.
It's going to continue.
It's just confirmation bias.
It's a perpetual problem, because what's happening now is we're seeing that we're starting to sound more AI in our own speech, because it's saturating our world right now. So this is one of those things that it's going to be one of those things that more and more people are going to get more and more cynical about what they're reading and listening to, because they're going to hear these things, these patterns. But like I said, the point of you in this and us talking about this, and the point of your authorship going forward is to just make sure that you're being as true to your own voice as possible. Like one of the things that I wanted to point out before we end this, and it's in my tool, but one of the things that I point out in my tool is that you want to make sure that you're doing this before you hire an editor. And I say this specifically in here is that ultimately what you're trying to do is trying to make it as easy as possible through the revision process and as cost efficient as possible, right? When you hire an editor, it is not cheap. You're hiring us to take time out of our lives to read, and when I say take time out of our lives, I mean when I'm reserving my time to read a manuscript, it means that other authors are not getting that time. That is my time to read your manuscript, which means you have to pay me for that time. So while I'm reading your manuscript, that is expensive, right? You're paying me to pay 100% of my time to your manuscript, and then apply those years of skill, that industry knowledge, that instinct that I have, and also all that training that I have, and I'm applying that to your work. When you hire an editor and you ask them to then, okay, I want you to scrub out the AI. Now you're adding another layer of work to what we already do. And what that's going to probably end up resulting in a higher rate of work. So my copy editing rate is right smack in the middle of the EFA scale. When it comes to this and taking out an AI and scrubbing that from your manuscript, that's going to take much more time. And that probably means that you're going to get a more of a book doctoring rate from me. And I can see more and more human editors charging that higher rate because it will become kind of like a rewrite. We're not necessarily going to be ghostwriting, but we are going to be rewriting many of your sentences to try to reinsert this voice. Now, the other danger that I mentioned that we kind of haven't talked about yet at this point, but that I do put in my tool, and I have a paragraph about this specifically, but it was something that came to mind as I was writing up this tool, is that when you hire an editor to do this, and if you haven't already established or distinguished your voice from the AI, what you run the risk of doing by asking an editor to scrub the AI and then enter or reinsert a voice that's human, you run the risk of them inserting their own voice if you haven't already established a voice. So that means now your voice is no longer distinguishable because you have this editor's voice that has then planted their voice in your manuscript.
Basically, I was going to mention that because basically that the thing that you hire a professional editor to do is to edit your manuscript, but not edit out your voice.
Right.
When you ask us to edit out an AI voice, we need to know how to replace that voice in your voice. So if we don't know your voice already, in fact, Stacy and I had just had this with an author not very long ago, and that I edited a book. She had edited a couple others of his books. So I thought maybe this guy wasn't that good of a writer, and this was just his voice. But a lot of it was AI, and Stacy was able to recognize it because she'd read his other books and knew his voice. And she said, this is not him. This is not that author. This is something else. This is AI. Well, okay. So if we don't know your voice, our only choice is to insert the only voice that we do have, which is our voice. Right. So it's super important that you do this before you get to an editor, not just because it's going to cost you and be very expensive, but also because we can only insert what we know.
Right.
And so if we don't know your voice, we can only insert our own voice into there.
Exactly.
And again,
and charge you a lot of money doing it.
Your story. Yeah, because we have to pay for our time. And when people ask me about that, like, they say things like, it's just reading a book, or it's just doing this or whatever. I go, what do you do for a living? Like, you don't expect me to come to your workplace after hours and ask you to do some work for me for free because, you're just changing my oil. Yeah, I change oil all day. I charge everybody for changing their oil.
Yeah,
Hey, but it's just changing your oil. You do it anyway. No, no, we don't just read books anyway. And here's the other thing to just let you know, which is often so hard for me, is I cannot turn off my internal editor when I'm
it
reading a
is
book, even for
hard.
pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle
It is
to do
hard.
that. So it's hard for us to just really enjoy books. So when you say we're just reading a book, we're always reading it with an editor's eye, especially when we're doing a manuscript evaluation for, or something for you. But I will tell you this, and I know Stacy feels the same way. If I'm doing a manuscript evaluation at this point and I sense that you have used a significant amount of AI and this is what it's going to take, that is going to be reflected in whatever proposal we send back to you.
Right.
Because unfortunately, it has to be, because that means we have to spend more time doing it. The other thing that I'll tell you about this is, and I know I'm asking you to consider other authors,
Mm-hmm.
because I tell you that if I have agreed to help another author with my time, a lot of times I will push you out on my calendar. Stacy does
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. And the reason is I have to respect that author's time and money that they paid me for. And I have to give my attention to their manuscript, and I have to give my attention to your manuscript. The more time I have to give to your manuscript, the less time I have to give to someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather get manuscripts from you that you have worked on and have scrubbed the AI out of, so that I can finish them in a reasonable amount of time, charge you a reasonable amount of money instead of a huge amount of money. And as well, that gives me the fact that I can help at least one more author that year
Right.
that I may not have been able to help before because I'm spending too much time on your project.
Right.
Right. I mean, let's just
Right.
be nice to each other as peers
Yeah.
and treat each other with respect and respect people's time and money. One of the reasons that Stacy and I, well, I can go up on it, but that we don't do developmental edits too much anymore, but we do manuscript evaluations and give you
Or we'll
homework,
do
or
guided
do like
rewrites.
guided
Mm-hmm.
guided rewrites. It's because they're cheaper, they take us less time, so we can help more authors, and you learn more along the way.
Right. You become the better
So it's a
writer.
win-win.
Yeah.
It's win-win situation.
So the
Anyway,
other thing I wanted to point out on that whole, the reason you want to don't want to hire, you don't want to hire an editor too soon, and you want to make sure you scrub the AI out, is because, um, well, actually, you want to do this, but like, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. No, oh, I did. I remembered. It was specifically because I wanted to make
yeah.
sure that when you hired an editor, that you vet them properly, because if you're wanting to find an editor that will scrub that AI from you, if you actually decide you want to, or you think you've done an adequate job and you give it to an editor, and that you want to make sure that the editor doesn't put that AI voice back. So you want to make sure,
Mhm.
and I will say this, many authors or editors out there have been using what some may call AI. It's not, but some may call it AI for decades. And I said this in my last podcast. I'm going to say it again. Editors that use spell checkers or grammar checkers, those are not AI, and they do not change the voice back to an AI voice. I promise you they don't. I've tested this myself. I've made sure that this is in fact what's happening. Grammar checkers, speller checkers, they don't do that. It's when you use that rewrite, revise, and improve feature.
Rephrase.
A rephrase,
Rephrase,
right?
improve.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Grammarly does have those. They're on their pro features. I don't use them. I don't have pro Grammarly. I do it on purpose. So I never use that revise, rephrase, ever. So if you're going to rephrase sentences because you want to scrub out that AI, you're using it, your own brain and your own discernment to do that. You need to make sure you're hiring an editor that does the same. And here's how
Mhm.
you check them. When you get the manuscript back, that manuscript better be in track changes so that you can see everything that they did and everything that they changed. And you can go through those changes and make sure that you approve those changes. You, as the author, are ultimately going to be held responsible for everything that you publish. The editor is not the one that
Mhm.
puts their name on the copyright. You are. So it's your job to check them. So instead of blaming your editors for, oh, they put the AI back in my manuscript, you're the one that's supposed to check it. So when you get the manuscript back from an editor, check it. But also, before you hire the editor, ask them, what tools do you use when you're editing my manuscript? If they're a legitimate,
Mhm.
upstanding, well-established editor like myself or Troy, we're going to tell you.
Mhm.
I'm
And
totally
we're going to tell you
transparent.
exactly how we use
Tell you
them.
exactly
We're
what
going
my
to tell
process
you
is.
exactly how we use them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we've made
We
mistakes in the
we
past.
are, if anything, too transparent.
Yeah.
If
Yeah. I
anything, we
think
are too transparent with our process. And I get told this all the time. Oh, you don't have to tell people everything. But here's the thing: the more honest I am with you, the more honesty I can expect from you as an
Mhm.
author.
Right.
Right? So it's a mutual thing, right?
Right.
If you're going to take my editing advice that I give back to you and you're going to use AI to change it back to whatever you think it should be, then again, that is your responsibility as an author. But I mean, but here's the other thing with this tool is we're going to give you this tool.
Yeah. We're going to give
It's
you
a
the tool.
free tool, but just like anything else, it is a tool.
Yeah.
Okay. You could potentially misuse this.
Yep.
You could mess up your fiction by using it. If you have any doubts about what you're doing when you're in the process of using this, please stop and get the help of a professional. And when I say that, that doesn't have to be Stacy or I.
No,
I
please.
am somewhat biased that I think that we are amazing. However, I also know that both of us are booking out pretty significantly in time wise
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
So if you're in a hurry, we may not be the answer for you, but you may be able to find a professional who can help you.
And if you
Please,
need,
please, please do
if
that.
you need help
Please
with a
do
vetted
that.
professional, we can do that too. We have professional
We can
colleagues
help you
that
find something.
we have a team at Print to Pro of editors that I actually have on staff that are ready to take manuscripts. And if you want me to help you find an editor that matches your genre and that can handle your work, I can do that. But yeah, ultimately, I just want people to be aware of the fact that there is a fiduciary responsibility for with editors, but we are not in the United States. We are not held to a certain standard. We're not held to the same standard as they are in Canada. So if you're here in the United States and you're hiring
Mhm.
an editor and that editor doesn't do a certain level of work for you, there's there's nothing that you can really do about it unless you have a contract. And so therefore, make sure that you have a contract with your editor. Make sure that you're doing this correctly. Like I teach all of this in my Print to Pro power sessions. Like I teach all of this about, making sure that you're wearing the CEO hat and taking full I guess responsibility for running your author business. But like it's important that as an editor, a writer relationship, that you know what they're doing and that's transparent so that you can make sure that these tools and this tool
Mhm.
that we give you is being
Absolutely.
utilized correctly. And if you want to, you can give this tool to your editor and say, hey, this is a tool that was good. Like we're happy to share. Like this is one of those things where we're always wanting to help benefit the writer community. This isn't something we're like, like this is, but I will be copywriting it, by the way. So just so
Yeah.
you know, if you plagiarize my crap, I'm coming after your butt, but it's for you for free. You can use it, but it's
Yeah. For your personal use,
but
please
I will
don't
tell you,
sell it.
don't
That
sell
type
this.
of
This is
thing.
not the type of thing you were going to sell. But yes, but we are providing it for you. If you have any questions, you can always come to us at printtopro.com. The Plot Abides is Troy's website, and he teaches some amazing craft labs. In fact, the next one that you've got coming up is amazing. I can't remember the title of it though. Do you remember the title of it? It was, it
This
was,
one is,
I can't
let
remember
me
the
look and
title.
see real
Mine is
quick.
my power session is,
Aligning
oh, go ahead.
aligning character arcs with plot.
There you go. Aligning character arcs. Yeah. Cause I love
Yeah.
character arc. By the way, it's one thing I'm always looking for. Where's the character arc? Where's the character arc? That's my thing.
Yeah. Character arc is your plot arc.
Yeah,
Anyway, giving
it
away
is.
some of my preaching.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it is a good thing. Anyway, and then mine is on profitable pages. We're going to be talking about taxes. We're going to talk about how to have a P&L that's going to actually make work for you. I had one client, one person who came to my last class, she's like, even if you're only selling 2 books, and I'm like, yeah, even if you sell 2 books, I'm going to show you how to make money in this business, what you're looking for. So we're going to talk about that. So those are coming up in April. If you want to sign up, you can go to printpro.com. We have those on there, and you can register for those for free. Again, they're free and they're for you. But yeah, we went a little long with this one, but I want you guys to know that these things are not going away. AI is not going away. This is not something that and Troy and I understand that. We also know that there's a time and a place to use AI. We advocate for using it in certain circumstances. I've had clients where they've had a complete and utter brain fog and they needed to go to ChatGPT for some ideas. And we picked through those ideas that Chat threw out at us, and we found one and we ran with it. But there are good uses for it. Writing your manuscript. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have all these citations in my tool. If you want to go down that rabbit hole with all those citations, you are more than welcome to. I'm not going to even put them in the description because like 27 plus whatever 10 Troy have, I'm going to see which ones overlap. If we have 37 citations, that's a little much for the YouTube algorithm. I'm going to just throw those in the tool. Yeah. But you're welcome. You're willing, if you want to go down that deep dive and read all those abstracts, you are more than welcome. I will say that they were fun for me to go through, and it was nice to be able to articulate some of these things that are existing right now in AI writing. Mm-hmm. And like I said, our tool will have those outlined for you, and then also suggestions on how to remove them. So that's what the tool is for. And that's how that's going to be lined out. It's not going to be in our rant format. It's going to be in a nice structured format for you. Mm-hmm. So anyway, but if you have any questions, you can find us. You know how to find us. Again, like, subscribe, and follow if you'd like to continue to hear more stuff from us. We've got some fun stuff we're going to talk about in the coming months. With the summer coming, we've got some conferences we're getting ready for. And if you want to come see us, and also Feldheim is coming up in October. Yes. If you want to come to that, Becca Simon, Roland.
We'll put the link to that. We'll put the link to that thing below. We're not going to talk about it in detail, but there's another video where we've done about Feldheim. Find us on social media. You'll learn things about that. There are very limited seats. I think they're going to go very fast, very soon. So
we've already sold a couple of seats already. And then, and as soon as Becca and Roland probably tell their people, their email lists about it, it's gonna fill up really fast. But also, if you want to hang out with us at Author Nation, we're going to be there. And we're also planning on heading out to, I just got confirmation from Killer Nashville that we'll be there. Killer
Nashville. Awesome.
We'll be there as well. So we look forward to seeing you guys this year. And if you want to just keep following us on YouTube, you can follow us on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. We're over there as well. So listen to us while you're cleaning your bathrooms. We're happy to do that with you. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.